Is the West under siege? Well, yes, let me count the ways. I would say that the most important thing is that it's under siege from within. I think we've alluded to that already, but it's also under siege from without. But the fact is, if you are strong inside, and if you are strong as a society, you can withhold and you can withstand those attacks that might come at you. I would say that the most insidious experience of the West over the past, I would say, well, my lifetime actually, has indeed come from inside. The crucial point, I think, is when people talk about the loss of confidence in the West, I firmly believe that the majority of people in the West, for want of a better expression, ordinary people, have not lost confidence in the West. It is the elites who have. This has been a top-down revolution, if you like. It's a top-down movement which is essentially anti-Western. So in recent years, let's just take a few of the kind of traditions of the West. Great creative achievement, now systematically undermined from the time of dead white males in the 1980s onwards. Only recently we've just had Chaucer this week, for example, getting a trigger warning simply because he mentions Christianity. There are references to Christianity. So that's got a trigger warning. That is to undermine the whole work. The scientific tradition as well. It's seen now, for example, as being a white-centric or European-centric thing. And we found that, therefore, increasingly, scientific fact is being challenged, biological fact is being challenged. We see this even in the trans movement. So the idea of truth and objective truth is also being overhauled. Beauty is also, I would say, seriously under attack. The idea of what is beautiful is under attack. Western history, and by that also, by extension, Western civilization, is seen as just simply being a history of racism and plunder. Critical race theory is seen as basically a way now of viewing, well, Western civilization as being inherently racist. Even environmentalism, I would say, is essentially got an anti-Western motive behind it. You know, when Jocasta put soup over one of our great works of art or whatever in the National Gallery, they're not thinking for a moment of going to Beijing, for example, or Mumbai. It wouldn't even cross their mind. There's a strong anti-Western thing. And, in fact, I think it was Greta Thunberg, God bless her, who actually said this as well, that in fact it's actually we are to blame for the state of the planet because we industrialized. The very thing that brought about enormous progress, a Western phenomenon, now we should be shameful about that. So it's on all fronts. From my perspective, the most important and the most worrying thing, and here we are at the Battle of Ideas, is the attack on free speech, which is at the very fundamental foundation of a Western liberal democracy. We're seeing it every single day. Most recently, actually, even in our pubs, that came about this week. This is a litany of appalling things, of course. Do I have hope? Yes, I do. First of all, our education system's more or less completely given up actually teaching anything about Western civilization. So people don't know, in fact, what they're meant to be defending even, right? Indeed, that's one of the reasons why we at the New Culture Forum produced a series called The West, which was actually to remind ourselves of basically what we need to defend. I mentioned there that that I'm optimistic despite that roll call, and that is to go back to the beginning, and that is that I feel that the majority of people do not share this lack of confidence. They are fully aware of the shame, the embarrassment, the actual hatred, I would say, of Western civilization and what they are, that we see amongst our various elites, indeed also in the education system. They know it because ordinary people live with the consequences far, far more than anyone else. So I do want to stop on that optimistic note, but just to recap, yes, it is under siege, it's under attack from within, but it's top down. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
I'll take up the point, very good points, but I think some of them didn't require answers, did they? But I'll take up the point about demography. Of course, yes, this is a huge problem for the West. I think Britain is way down there when it comes to, well, in fact, we're way below replacement level demographically. I think the question really comes is that we have had, over the past, 20 to 30 years, historically unprecedented migration into Europe. And you have to ask, can, if you like, Western society, Western civilization, be the same with different people in it? And I think that is the question that nobody seems to want to discuss. It seems to me that it's actually at the crux of a lot of what we're talking about. Not related to that, or perhaps related to that, is the general attack on Christianity. We've got a very, very confident Islam, a very, very demographically confident Islam. There's also been an attack throughout the world on Christianity. When you look in Europe, in fact, what you might call the wider Western society, so that includes France and Canada, say, you've got this phenomenon that's not being reported here very much of the burning of churches. Now, what is that? You know, it is not being covered at all. But in France, I think 140 churches in 2 years have gone up in flames. Now, I can't say what that is. I've got a few ideas what it might be. But these sort of things are just being ignored. We cannot afford to ignore these kind of developments that are happening in the West.
Great, thanks. Bill.
I also wanted to quickly pick up, actually, again, on a point Peter raised about the apparent rise of a confident Islam. I don't see that. And it's not like I'm not following the news or anything. When you see the outcome of the Bataclan terrorist attack trial in Paris a few years ago, what you find is they weren't following religious observances. They were watching snuff videos in a cafe and kind of self-radicalizing themselves. There was very little connection to Islam other than as a kind of cry or rallying cry and maybe a badge. What we do see, of course, is people in the Middle East who take courage from our lack of confidence. You know, when we are not clear as to who we are, what we stand for, and what we're trying to establish, when Labour councillors resign en masse because over the Palestinian question, that is repeated throughout the Middle East. But we have given them that fire. Wearing a headscarf, I'll finish on this point, wearing a headscarf in the UK today doesn't mean you're pious. It's not an allegiance to a community of faith. It might be about Muslim identity, but then it touches more on identity politics than it does religion. How much of it is deeply held? How much of it is just fashion? How much of it is tactical, demonstrative resistance to a presumed domination? I just simply don't see it. It's our crisis that makes us think that things that actually were fairly normal in the past are signs of fundamentalism or fanaticism.
Great, thanks. Peter.
I don't know where to start on that, frankly.
Well, you better say something.
I'll have a try. Major denial going on here. First of all, the headscarf, it's a symbol of subjugation, right? That's what it is, in my view. And to say that it's a matter of choice is ridiculous. When it comes to the confidence of Islam and Muslim society, you mentioned the Bataclan, you mentioned terrorism. You don't have to go that far. I, in fact, didn't even talk about terrorism. The fact is that when you're talking about Western civilization, this becomes very, very germane. If you go through the various beliefs as surveyed by the Muslim community in this country, something like 52% think it should be illegal to depict or criticize Prophet Muhammad. We still have a teacher up in Yorkshire who is still in hiding because he showed cartoons to his pupils, right? And he's going to stay in hiding now forever because no one's got the guts to actually back him up, right? Similarly, 32% of Muslims prefer Sharia law in this country. This is all verifiable. These are the things that are challenges, I'm afraid, to Western civilization. We can all say kumbaya and hello flowers, hello trees, but this is the fact of the matter. And just by simply saying, oh, well, in New York, everyone was even more diverse. The people you mentioned, I'm afraid it's a fact, were European people, right? Basically from the same tradition. That is not what we have now in Europe. And this is crucial. And there's no point in sort of saying, well, I just don't see this. I mean, this is crazy.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Jacob.
First of all, we'll make the point very important here. Actually, I think Jacob just more or less said it. When I talk about Islam, by the way, we're talking about a belief system. Don't forget that. I'm talking about an ideology, which I feel is regressive and a problem for us in the future. I'm not talking about race because it's not. It's an ideology. We could all become Muslim tomorrow if we wanted. That's an important point to make. As a general wrapping up, I would just say one thing. Back in about 1987, Stanford, and this is very emblematic, Stanford University, discontinued a course which was an introduction to Western civilization. It was very, very popular. And they bowed to kind of political activists, and they got rid of it. So now it just became cultures or something like that. Cut to this year, and we have students on those campuses who are protesting at the moment saying such things as, we are Westerners and we want to eradicate entirely Western culture. So I would say to you, in reply to that, we have to build our own new institutions like they are increasingly doing in America, like Hillsdale College, right? We have to educate our young people in the brilliance of Western civilization. Not just, on balance, it's okay, but I'm a bit uncomfortable about saying this and that. In the sheer brilliance of it and all its ideas. So basically, that is what we should do. And in fact, in that way, Western civilization could have a huge renaissance in the future.